I'll admit I'm doing way better today than I thought I would. I ran a half marathon yesterday. I've never ran that far in my life. No, don't clap. There's no reason to do that. There's no reason. It's silliness. Cheryl, where's Cheryl? I saw Cheryl walking. There you are. Because you told me you ran multiple. And she ran one not long ago and was at church the next day. And I'm like, toughen up, Chad. You know, Cheryl was here, didn't even look like she had any effects. So you inspired me in my healing journey. It looked like you were doing pretty good the day after. So, yeah, so it's going good today. But today, we're going to continue our series, Don't Tell Me You Can't. And we're going to look at Abraham and Timothy. We're going to start with just some sayings that are familiar, some pretty typical, but also some good quotes. Heard this one before, I'm sure. Age is just a number. It's just a number. You're only as old as you feel. I take issue with this one. Because even in my younger days, I've woken up and I have not felt as young as I am. So I'm not sure that that's always a positive one. But I guess we wake up and feel great, then we feel younger than what we do. I like this one. You know you're getting older when your back goes out more than you do. By Phyllis Diller. And these are some good ones too. Do not regret growing older. It is a privilege denied to many. The best tunes are played on the oldest fiddles. By Ralph Waldo Emerson. Aging is not lost youth, but a new stage of opportunity and strength. And I love that one. And we're going to talk about that a little bit today. And the longer I live, the more beautiful life becomes. Frank Lloyd Wright. And a few for the younger crowd. Takes courage to grow up and become who you really are. E.E. Cummings. And I think that one's powerful. Like, I don't know, for some of us as we've grown up, what was the age in which you really got comfortable with who you are? Like, I was thinking about this the other day. I think it was like around 40 is when I really got comfortable. Like, I used to, never want to take my shirt off at the pool, for the longest time. And now I'm like, whatever. And I look way worse than what I used to, But it's just like you just get comfortable in your skin as you get older. You stop caring what everybody thinks about you. Youth is not a time of life, but a state of mind. I was at this 80-year-old birthday party the other day, and I was telling, these people were fun. And I'm like, they were probably wild when they were younger. And I think that there's something to that. Enjoy it while you're young. I'm sure young people hear that one. Enjoy it while you're young. Youth is wasted on the young, and this is the idea that you don't have the wisdom yet. These aren't always the two feel-good positive ones. But like this one, the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but building the new. And I think that's so important, not just personally, church, workplaces, communities, government, whatever you're into, respect what's been built, but also realize times are where we're at today and where we're going. And today we're going to look at Abraham and Timothy. Timothy versus Abraham. Two people, kind of opposite ends of the spectrum. One is from the Hebrew Bible, featured heavily in other traditions such as Judaism and Islam. The other is from the New Testament, a fiery upstart, making a name for himself through spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ. But both face some struggle due to their age. Abraham's older, Timothy is much younger. So we're going to start by Abraham. And as Kathy had read, Abraham's call by God started at 75 years old. 75, he gets this call. Abraham, pack it up and move. Abraham, and I have to imagine, they don't really talk about this. I imagine Abraham probably discerned a little bit, like, should I not? What's going on? Is that God's voice? What's happening here? It probably felt very weird for him to be at that age, to just be asked to move and follow, but he does. Abraham shows great faith, and I think this is one of the things that we can learn from our elders of our faiths, is learn from their obedience or their great faith that they have. Why? Because as younger people, we may be cautious, or we may not want to take that big leap of faith, and we want to know what's going to work out. All you got to do is look around. The people are here. I guarantee you, everybody here has probably done something that maybe didn't make a lot of sense, maybe the odds weren't in your favor, but you did it anyways, and you are living proof. Take a chance in life. It may work out. It's a great lesson that we can pick up as young people as we go through our lives. Because sometimes knowledge and intelligence and wisdom can actually make us rely more upon ourselves, even as we get older. I know enough. I've gained enough. I don't want to change. I don't want to transform. I don't want to do any of this stuff. I know what I got it all. But what Abraham shows us is that there are always new opportunities. And that our own calculations, why we may calculate something, or whether the probability of success would work as a 55% chance. I'm going to type this into ChatGPT, get my statistical probability on whether this would work. It says it's 60%, it should be successful. I'm going to go for it, right? People may be doing this nowadays, no joke. They may be doing this nowadays. But God, when God calls us, God doesn't make sense. Wait, God's calling Abraham at 75. This doesn't make sense. Abraham's childless. This doesn't make sense. And we see this throughout Scripture. God calling people all the time that this doesn't make sense. So sometimes the way God works doesn't make sense. And you have to be able to discern when it's your voice and when it's God's voice. Some of that comes with experience and wisdom. So sometimes we got to do what Abraham does. We got to take that leap of faith no matter what the age. I think even as you get older, that's probably even more important. Take that chance in life. Take that trip that you always wish you did. Do the thing. If you can still do it, do it. There's a study that I found that was done at Yale called the Health and Retirement Study. It's really interesting. It's a federally supported study where they followed 11,000 participants. And it just got published, I think, back in April. And this is what is said about this study. It said, aging in later life is often portrayed as a steady slide toward physical and cognitive decline. But a new study at Yale suggests an alternate narrative, that older individuals can and do improve over time, and their mindset towards aging plays a major part in their success. So I'm going to say, as my experience as a pastor and working with all ages, I kind of agree with this. And I think I agree with it more since I moved here than what I saw where I came from. Where I came from, I saw the aging community much more unhealthy, much more just staying home, waiting for their day to come, right? Not as active, didn't care as much about their health, didn't get outside, kind of just sat and watched TV all day. But when I came here, I have experienced aging entirely differently. You may not feel that for yourself. You grew up here. You may not maybe see it necessarily as much. But I see a group of people as they age who are active, healthy, cognitively strong, still doing so much and giving so much all the time. And it has to be maybe some of it's the weather and the sun. But even if that's the case, you still have to get up. You choose to get up and get out, no matter how you're feeling on those days. And I think I have also experienced a more positive outlook on life. At this birthday party I was at, the woman who turned 80, she said, I always said I was going to be 100, and not just 100, but a healthy 100. And that reminded me of my grandma. My grandma died at 99. She had stomach cancer, and you're 99, get cancer, not much they're going to do for you. She's like, I thought I was going to make it to 100. And we're like, well, technically, if you count the time that you were in the womb, I guess we could count it, Grandma. But she had such a positive outlook as the days were winding down, just such a positive outlook and reflection of her life. And no doubt my grandma attacked life with a real spark all the time. And I really think it made a difference for her in her life. And I feel like I see it in you all. It's so present in you all. And here's something else that is said in this study. It says if you average all these people together, you'll see decline. Dr. Levy, who was part of this study, he said, but when you look at individual trajectories, you uncover a very different story. So they're looking at kind of like those who improved, what were some things that were similar? A meaningful percentage of the older participants that we studied got better. It said that our findings suggest that there is a reserved capacity for improvement in later life. And because age beliefs are modifiable, this opens the door to interventions at both the individual and societal level. So our age beliefs are modifiable. I highlight that because we sometimes think younger people are too naive or don't have enough wisdom, or that's cute that you think it's that way. Oh, you're going to learn differently, aren't you? You know, like we have these kind of things that we do with younger people that we say, these little microaggressions that sometimes make some nervous about speaking up or speaking out or really kind of moving into their calling. But as younger people, sometimes we look at older people and think, well, they can't do this. Get out of the way. Let the younger people take over. What do you know? You're out of touch. Well, these are age-old kind of boxes we place each other in. Our beliefs are modifiable, meaning when we are presented with new information, when we learn new things, when we experience new things, we can change our mind. We can change our beliefs about how we interact with people and what they bring to the table. So why we are a church that, yes, we desire to be younger, we just desire to have more diversity of age because younger people have a certain skill set, older people have a certain skill set, and when we can combine it all, we can do the work that we're called to do collectively as a community. It's hard when it's just placed on one small group of people. And I think what I've seen in this place is a true desire to welcome younger people to the table and their voice. People were generally excited when Matthew Harriman took on the role of vice moderator. That's a big deal. They were excited, and what I've heard is we want to hear his voice. Nobody's trying to silence that, and they want to hear more from the younger people in the church. They want to support the younger people in the church, but we would be stuck if that's all we relied upon. No offense, younger people, but property team, they could use some younger juice in there, couldn't you, fellas? But you all know so much about this place. You have the wisdom and the knowledge. You know where the boxes and the switches and the tools and this is and that is. When that got replaced, I rely upon them all the time. They rely upon Gene a lot as well. So we need all this coming together, working together, and respecting each other for who we are, where we are, and knowing that God can call each of us at any time in our life. Because God wasn't finished with Abraham. Even after this long journey that Abraham had, and if you read the story of Abraham in Genesis and he goes through a lot in this journey. It wasn't like he loaded up the U-Haul, drove across the country, unloaded it, paid some movers, and just settled into a new house. He went through some stuff in that journey. So I'm sure when he reached the end, he was like, whew, I'm done. I am retired. I am calling it a day. And he could have. But yet, God calls him again at age 99. Calls him again. Oh my God. Nope, past my time. Well, God says, nuh-uh. I'm not done with you yet. And while Abraham's story is about God's call into life as someone who's older, Timothy is a story of a young man facing his own battles of age. The first two pastoral letters, called 1st and 2nd Timothy, shocking, were addressed to him. His father was said to be a Gentile, a Greek. His mother was said to be Jewish, and we feel that mom probably taught him a lot of the scriptures. So he grew up knowing the scriptures, respecting the scriptures, even though he lived in this household that held both Gentile and Jew. But what does Paul teach? There is no more Gentile and Jew. We're all one. So what a unique family life Timothy was probably growing up in at that time. Timothy served as Paul's scribe, and he was dispensed at times when Paul was in jail to speak to these communities. He represented Paul, which was no small task. And we think about who Paul is in the Christian story, that's a big deal to represent him in these matters as a young man. Timothy was thought of very highly by Paul. He was called Paul's child of faith. So it probably carried weight when Timothy walked into a room, but seriously, we think about that. How much weight does that really carry? That's great. I'm glad Paul backs you up. Let's see what you know, Timothy. Let's see what you know. It's hard for young people to earn the respect of older individuals. Sometimes they're not even given the chance to earn that respect. So I think one of the things we can do as we get older is to be very open to the experiences and the knowledge that younger people are bringing to the table, because their experiences are true. They're different. My God, are they different, right? I mean, I'd just say 10 years ago, what I could do with my life, what I could do with my income, it's not the same that I can do today. It's not the same as 50 years ago. The challenges are hard and different. Doesn't make one worse or one better. They're just different. So when we get older, it's easy for us to say, why don't you just do that? That's what I did. Well, yeah, that was 60 years ago. Times are different. And it's about meeting people where they are right now and understanding and believing the experiences of young people and helping them through those experiences as a mentor or as somebody who can speak real influence into their life, who can encourage them in ways. That's what Paul does with Timothy. So while he goes into these rooms and he gets to represent Paul, this isn't all he's been asked to do. Paul gives him another big task. He says, when you go into these places, you're going to confront the older, corrupt teachers. Good luck. Good luck. Whoa, that had to be scary for Timothy. That had to be really intimidating to walk in knowing you're dealing, first of all, with corrupt people. Secondly, these are in a society at that time that definitely looked up to the elders, that definitely respected that. Boy, he has to do what we would call today, speak some truth to power. And Timothy, he was not this big, muscular, intimidating person. Timothy struggled with health issues, stomach issues. And I can't imagine 2,000 years ago what a stomach issue would do to you. Jeez. I mean, he even says in 1 Timothy 5:23, he says, don't be drinking only water there, Timothy. Use a little wine because of your stomach and your frequent illnesses, thinking the wine would help settle his stomach down. Maybe Timothy had anxiety. Who knows? And even though Timothy had health challenges and the challenge of age and walked into spaces where everybody was older than him, he had Paul. He had this mentor. And that's something young people need today. Not just somebody to tell them what to do. Do you like being told what to do? I love it. I love it. God is my favorite thing in the world. I love it so much. I hate it, like everybody else, right? We don't want to be told what to do, but I'm great if I know people care. If people care about my well-being and where I'm going, and they want to walk alongside me and guide me and make sure I don't fall off the ledge. That's kind of what we need in mentorship. Paul cared deeply about Timothy. Cared deeply, and Timothy knew that. So he wasn't just someone to tell him what to do, but he poured into him in these ways. Believed in him, that he could do it. Even when Timothy's like, I can't do this, because he says, I don't know. And Paul's like, no, don't let anybody look down on you because you're young. Know this passage? Don't let anybody look down on you, he tells them. So don't let anybody do that. Don't let anybody look down on you. Speak up. Sometimes you got to speak a little louder, but speak up. And I think if young people can accept loving mentorship and not try to use your own knowledge, because there's something we haven't quite gained yet as young people. We haven't gained that wisdom yet that comes with experience, that comes with learning and failures. That if we can accept that, man, our lives can be better and change. One of the reasons why we started the men's group, one of the reasons why Andrew was passionate about the men's group was he wants to get to know all ages of people. We want to know all ages. We want to learn and experience from each other and build this community, not just for a certain subset, but for all us guys. So we're gathering at Bob Stahl's place on Thursday. There's a little plug for that. But wisdom, like Scripture, can depart thousands of years later on us because we can interpret the meaning and figure out how to live it out in our own context and place and time. We need wisdom. But there's also a shared struggle currently Both younger individuals, especially men, and older individuals are facing an isolation crisis that's really having damaging long-term effects. And we can talk about the damaging long-term effects of toxic masculinity in our men today and how that is pouring out and creating systems, massive systems of abuse to women. And we've talked about that before. It's also because of those behaviors and thoughts, women aren't seeing men as being very safe, and that's fair. So they want nothing much to do with them anymore, and that's fair. Our men need to change. We kind of need a new awakening, and I've talked lots about that. But it's creating this isolation crisis, which just compounds the problem. But isolation is also an issue with the older community. So I guess my question is, can the church be a place where both can come together to find community with each other and form a loving and respectful relationship, realizing that each brings something valuable to the table? You know, as a guy who's divorced, and it's not the proudest thing in my life by any means, I wish my marriage would have worked out to the day I die. It doesn't always work like that. And there's some of you all who have had some very long, very beautiful marriages. There are some people I've met that have gone through what I've gone through. Terry and Lainey, my surrogate parents, did, and they found love again together. And in them, I have seen this beautiful, loving, respectful relationship that I want. And I have seen them grow into having respectful relationships with their exes for the benefit of the kids. I have been motivated and mentored. I have been able to observe what I want in the older people in my life. I want relationships like some of you have. I want that feeling of I just want to be around my person all the time. I want to feel so deeply loved like some of you do when you talk about your spouses. We've been married 55 years. I would think you've been married for 1 year, the way you still love and lust after each other. Like, that's what I want. I see it in you, and I think it's missing today in our younger people. As someone who went through the dating game not long ago, it's horrifying out there. Horrifying. And we're missing that today. And I'm much more progressive. I'm all about, hey, man, we're, whatever about traditional stuff, but I am going to say something a little more traditional. I think there's something about the way in which we love and date that we can learn from our older individuals that can bring back maybe some respectability, show us how to treat women better. I mean, I had this guy, I worked at another church, about 30 years my senior, and we were at a buffet one time, a dinner, a fundraising dinner, and I'm like, Martin, let's go up and get some food. He's like, no. I'm like, dude, come on. He's like, I'm waiting for Sue. He's waiting for his wife. I'm like, she's over there talking, dude. She's going to talk forever. Let's go get some food. He's like, I never get food before her. And he won't. Martin was the CEO of the local hospital. Powerful man. He's an accountant, so his personality is, no offense to the accountants. My dad was a CPA for 43 years. I feel like I can speak to that. Carol Tidrow, I love you to death wherever you are. But Martin respected and loved his wife so much, no way he would ever get a plate before her. And I love that. I thought, I'm going to learn that lesson. These are the things that we can learn from each other. And I think older individuals, as we have younger people in the church and younger people around, doesn't that energy just lift us up too? Doesn't that just inspire us and get us excited? Don't we just love seeing the faces and what they bring to a place? So we both can gather so much from each other. And I think the church can be a starting point for rebuilding these relationships. To go from a older versus younger to a older and younger. A both and. It's no longer the new ideas versus the old ideas. It's how do we build a place that has them all together, that sees everybody's uniqueness and builds that into a loving community where, we desire to get younger, but you know what? Older people, absolutely, come here. This is a wonderful community of faith that will lift up your gifts. Because we see Abraham, who's lifted up in 3 different faiths, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Abraham is one of the 6 major prophets who received the law of God in the Quran. And he receives more mentions than any other prophet than Moses. If you've ever read the Quran, you will realize he's everywhere in that. We see Timothy, who's right beside Paul, and the work he did in establishing the first churches. So on this Pentecost day, where the Holy Spirit is present as the disciples were preaching and bringing people into the faith, that Spirit passed on to Paul, passed on to Timothy, passed on throughout history, through all the churches, and is present in this place today. But I think one of the declines of the church is we've broken communion and community with the Spirit. We've individualized our faith rather than making faith about our community. I think this is the decline of the church. It's been about us and our personalized wants and desires and needs, and not about all of us. If we rebuild that community and rebuild the trust with each other and lift up the gifts that the Spirit is calling us to do, we rebuild the church. Because you never know when you may be called. And if you are called, just don't tell me you can't because of your age. Abraham and Timothy show us that God can use all of us.